calendar. And here we are, June 22nd. All right, we're in June 22nd right now. Lovely June 22nd. And now, Friday is the 24th. Okay, so that's when this beautiful planet parade begins in the morning, in the dawn, 45 minutes before dawn. So make sure you get up 45 minutes before dawn if you want to witness that. Man, that sounds cool. I'm not a morning guy, but I have to count that cost, see if I'm going to get up. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so I probably am. Probably am going to do it. Maybe we can do a live broadcast at that time. That would be cool. But 45 minutes before dawn. Okay, so that's the 24th, all right? Now, we're still looking. We've gone 40. That's 40 days from the 15th, which is the 14th of Iyar, which is Passover, okay? It's at least the second Passover, and there's a lot of evidence, as I shared in a previous video, of this pointing to the actual Passover because of the sun being in Aries and other things there involved. Go watch that video. There's a lot of great information in that video. I hope you watch it. So 40 days from that, that's this Friday, okay? Interesting that it's 40 days, okay? Now, Jesus was with them for a period of 40 days, roughly, right? About 40 days, it says. So could it be that, now that's from actual Passover, because we don't know when that 40-day count started, but remember last time we figured out, well, it seems like it started from the day he appears to them in the upper room when they're all together and the door's locked and so forth. It seems like it's that, but we don't know for sure. So potentially you could say he appeared 40 days after he was crucified, which that's what the 24th would be. If you want to go 3 days from that, assuming that's if we're looking at him raising that day and going 40 days, then we could go 25, 26, 27 maybe, and that could be the day of the Ascension Day, okay? So that's what we're looking at right now. That's 27, but now let's say if we want to go a week, some people say, well, no, it wasn't that day. It was like the following, Monday, let's say the 22nd. That would be the day after that Sabbath. So from that day, then we're adding basically another 4 days, I guess. So from 27, that'd be 28, 29, 30. That'd be like the first. That's kind of in that 30th Tammuz time period. So that could line up to be the 40 days that we're talking about, landing there on that 1st of Tammuz, there on the 30th of that first day of summer. And then there's also the idea of the 47 days, the Pentecost time period. So if let's say that's the 40 days, if we go another week and make this 47, the 7th, that would be, that'd be the 7th. That would be 47 days, and then 50 days would be like the 10th. But if we take a week off of that, that would put us around July 4th, which is interesting. July 3rd and July 4th, which is Independence Day in America. And wouldn't that be a symbolic time as well? Not that God's going to do it because of Independence Day in America, but the fact that America was this Christian-founded nation, a unique nation of nations in the world, founded on Christian values and freedom of man. And wouldn't it be interesting if Jesus comes to set the captives free on that day, since that was the whole purpose of that nation, to take us to the real nation, his nation. It was a reflection of what he was trying to do. So a lot of interesting dates there in terms of what we could be looking at with a potential Ascension Day and true Pentecost to fit in there as well. Now, if we look into the fall, if we're looking at the fall dates, then we've got to look at Rosh Hashanah. Now, I'm kind of what I lean towards now after going through all these feasts. And like I say, I started this journey last year, a little earlier than now, maybe in May or somewhere, is when I first really got into all this. And I've been doing ministry for many years, but in terms of really focusing on the end times, my brother was always into it growing up, and always kind of I always had an interest in it, but I never really focused on it. This is the first time I really did that, and it's been awesome. It's been such a great journey, and there was a lot when I first started, because the first one that the first time I hit that I really understood what was going on was Rosh Hashanah. So I was like, oh, cool. And everybody's talking about Feast of Trumpets. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And I bought some trumpets and given out to my family. I told you guys the story before. But the bottom line is, I thought, yeah, that sounds good, and I was excited about that being the possibilities with everybody talking about it. And then that came and went to Yom Kippur and Tabernacles and so forth. And when I got to Earthquake, Rapture, Tabernacles, that was a video I made. That's when it kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, there's something more. Like, it kind of took it to another level for me, where I was like, man, there's something here. There's something here. Because up to then I was like, this is interesting. Maybe there's something to this. But there I was kind of like, yeah, there's something to this. And Earthquake, Rapture, Tabernacles, and I was kind of like, And then I looked at the times that God wants us to appear before him, and it's Tabernacles is one, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and Pentecost. And so those are the times that God wants us to appear before him. So that's why I thought Tabernacles was a perfect time. But then now as I've gone through it and I've gone into the first months here, in the first feast, I realized, you know what, that really makes a lot more sense at the end. When Jesus returns, he's going to return to the Feast of Trumpets. Everybody celebrates, they're trumpeting. He's coming into town. Here comes the Messiah. Yom Kippur, the day of judgment day, he throws Satan into chains and the false prophet and so forth, go into the lake of fire. And so that just makes sense. And then tabernacle, then we tabernacle with him for 1,000 years. That's just logical, So I'm like, okay, so then what about these first feasts? And that's where I really dug into Passover and second Passover and Pentecost and so forth, and Feast of Unleavened Bread. And so now it leads me to this time, and here we are at this time. And it's not that it couldn't happen in the fall. I know there's people that strongly believe that it's a Feast of Trumpets thing, or it's a Yom Kippur thing, or a Tabernacles thing. If any time, I would think Tabernacles, but for us to be taken to be with him, because we're tabernacling with him. That's what it actually says in Revelation 7. Now they will shelter with him. They will tabernacle with him. So that to me still lines up. I mean, but here they got palm branches in their hands, and like that matched up with Palm Sunday in a lot of ways. So in any case, I'm kind of left going, well, this time period really does seem to make the most sense in a lot of ways. God can do whenever he wants, but it makes a lot of sense. I also look at this halfway through the year thing is interesting as well. That we get to June 30th, and I didn't actually calculate the years, but it really is halfway through the year, because you've got 6 months and 6 months. So you got January, February, March, April, May, June, then July, August, September, October, November, December, right? 6 and 6. So June 30th really would be really would make a lot of sense in terms of that half hour that he talks about, because I still feel like, it makes sense to me that he takes us out of the way. That causes a big stir, obviously. They think it's aliens or whatever they want to say. And people are screaming, oh, the wrath of God and so forth. And, then Russian army's taken out and all that. And then there's kind of this calm for a while, and people are like, oh, okay, let's rebuild. And then the axe falls in the fall on Judgment Day. That this was kind of a warning time, and kind of you have that half-hour break. But the 3.5 years also kind of makes sense too. It could be that the two witnesses come at that time, and they kind of give 3.5 years of just helping people prepare to go to heaven, so that they don't have to go through the wrath. And maybe there is another arpazo at that time, as it says in Revelation 14. There's another harvest. So it could be that it's sort of this first harvest, and then the witnesses come to say, hey, let's explain what just happened to you, okay? I'm explaining this to you. And then right before the real wrath kicks in, there could be another time, another harvest at Revelation 14 to get more of God's kids out of the way. And then finally you go through that last time period, and there probably will still be some people saved, but they're going to go through a lot of really, really serious stuff. Not that we aren't already facing serious stuff, we are. But when you look at Revelation, going back to Revelation 7 there, when you look at that, it seems like, let me just pick one of these to go to Revelation 7. Or Revelation 6 even. We're looking at these seals being broken, right? And it's talking about the sixth seal, the first seal, the second seal, the sixth seal, and so forth. And some people believe these were broken a long time ago, and that we've been living in the seals ever since, and now we're just waiting for the sixth seal. And that could be. But I do feel like, and sometimes God does both. Sometimes he parallels things. Sometimes things happen, like for example, blood moons and eclipses. That's been happening since the dawn of man, and the stars have been happening since the dawn of man. But we're obviously waiting for the real one, the official one, the final one. And I think in the same way, yes, you could argue, yes, this has been happening. Wars have been happening, peace from the earth, people killing each other and so forth. I mean, that's nothing new. Even famines have been happening and so forth, and death and plague and so forth. But then we're kind of waiting for that final one, the one that's like, okay, this is the one he was really talking about, is sort of the end all be all sort of thing. And when I look at this marker of the wheat, this one just stands out to me because it's so specific, This 2 pounds of wheat for their wages, 6 pounds of barley, and the fact that the Ukraine and Russia is literally the wheat and barley belt of the world is very significant. And that the prices have been shooting up, and now they don't want to damage the oil and wine. Israel gets half of its supply from there. I mean, there's lots that's pointing to that. It's just so specific. Now, you do have these other saints in the fifth seal saying, "When are you going to avenge us, Lord?" And that's also significant. How long, sovereign Lord, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood? And, that's obviously people throughout time. So it's almost like you have to wait for all the martyrs to come in. Maybe he's waiting for all the martyrs to come in. Not only just the souls to be saved, but all the martyrs, all those who have to die for him before he brings that final judgment as well. And then he says, wait a little while longer till the full number of your fellow servants and brothers who were to be killed just as they had been. Right? So that maybe that's really what we're waiting for. We're waiting for everybody who still has to be killed, which is interesting because we know people get killed during the tribulation too. So very interesting to consider. And then, of course, we have the sixth seal. And it all goes down from there. And then everybody appears before him and so forth. So looking back at the calendar, what does that mean for us? Where does that put us now? I mean, we're kind of hanging on thinking, there might still be a chance here. We've got summer hitting in first of Tammuz for the Jews. We've already passed what we thought was Pentecost. We've already passed even our summer solstice. But now we've got the Jewish summer. And that would be literally halfway through the year. Now, again, that's the Gregorian year. It's not the Jewish year, per se. So I don't know if God's looking at that, but it happens to line up. It happens to line up with the first of Tammuz. So it is intriguing that is halfway through, and we talk about that half hour. Maybe that's the half hour he's referring to. And then in the fall, he really kicks it in. And then,